Hey everyone, welcome back. So in this video, I'm going to be going over the initial block or the initial phone stand project, where this is our design brief that we've gone over in class. We're going to be designing a 3D letter that can double as a phone stand. Our specifications, aka rules or requirements, must fit inside a 2" by 2" box. Use the text tool to extrude a letter. Make two supports coming off the back of the letter, but make sure the bottom is flat. None of the supports, stick out past like the edges of our letter, and these supports should not take away from the aesthetics of the design, which I'll go over later, right? But this down below is the most important part. In order to accommodate this and support the phone, we must follow the dimension drawing below. So here is the right side view of this block, where that way we have a notch for our phone. And again, here's just another example letter. All right, so I'm going to go into Onshape. I'm going to create a new document. I'm going to title it whatever period you're in, your first name, your last initial, and then initial block. Create. Okay, so we're going to create a sketch on our front plane. I'm going to call it letter. And I'm going to use this tool right here, which is the text tool. So if I click on it, I'm going to lock it to the origin, click and drag up, it doesn't really matter, and then here I'm going to input my letter, which I'm going to use R. You're more than welcome to go through and find a font that you like, but it's super important that you want to try and find like a blocky letter, and it's going to make your life easier. Don't use like a stencil because it's going to split the letter in half, and try not to use any like script or any cursive, or like sometimes slanted letters are a little bit difficult, so blocky is typically easier. So I'm going to stick with Roboto. You also can have bold to make it a little bit thicker, right? So I'm going to hit confirm, and now I have my R. So I said it has to be inside a 2" by 2" box. So if I use the dimension tool, I'm going to dimension from the bottom to the top. Go ahead and put in 2. And then so if my height is 2, my length has to be 2 as well. So I can go from here to here. Try and make that 2 too. But it's yelling at me there's an issue. It's saying it's over constrained. That is because for letters, right, it wants to keep it in the same proportion so it actually looks nice. So what I like to say is that the biggest side, whether that's the height or the length, needs to be 2 inches. So whatever is the biggest side, make it 2. All right, so I have 2. I'm going to confirm my sketch. I'm going to go up to extrude, click on the face of my R, retitle it. And I want the depth to be 0.5 or ½ inch, right? Because that is what it says on my drawing. Confirm it. Now I have a 3D letter R, right? So when we do our supports, we're going to be doing it on the back, but it's super important. You don't want to see any of the supports from the front. Now, if you have a letter like this where it has legs, it's significantly easier. If you have like a curve, like if you have an S, a J, a C, it can be a little trickier, which I can certainly help you with. All right, so I'm going to go to the back of my letter, and I'm going to add the legs or supports. So I'm going to click on the face. Again, you can call it legs, supports, whatever you want to call it. I'm going to use my rectangle tool just to make a rectangle here. Now, it's super important. I don't want to get locked into a midpoint, so I'm just going to randomly make it a height. And I can always go back here, and because I'm darn good, it's super close to what it has to be. It has to be 0.5 tall, right? Now over here, if I'm using the rectangle tool, I'm going to click, stuck in dimension, I'm going to click and drag, right? And try to make it. The issue is you can see that support from the front, right? You'll see all this area here, which I do not want. So I'm going to go back to the back of our part, and instead of doing a rectangle, I'm actually going to just use the line tool, and I'm going to freehand it, tracing the edge of my part. So I'm going to start the bottom right hand corner. I'm just going to go up a random amount. I'm going to go across, and it's super important. You want do you see those dotted lines there? That means that it's perfectly perpendicular to this point, which is what I want. And I'm going to click over here. I'm going to trace down until I get another point. Then I have to go a little bit closer because it then goes down Got a little weird there. Let's try that again. Straight down, bang. Now I'm going to go over to this side. And now I have a full shape. But again, I do have to dimension it. So I'm here. I'll go from the top to the bottom. Make sure it's 0.5 tall. Boom. Now I have my 2 legs supported. Again, it's significantly easier if you have a letter like this. If you have a curve here where it's J, an S, or a C, I can certainly help you out. But you want to try and minimize as much hangover as you possibly can. In order to keep aesthetics nice, I'm not going to have any support in the middle. That way you can see the R normally, right? So if I go back to the back, I can confirm that sketch, go to extrude, click both of those because I want to extrude them, rename them legs, right? And in order to make this fit in a 2x2 box, I'm going to extrude it to a depth of 1.5. That way, with the 1/2 inch for the block, it is now 2 inches. Now, I do have to, where is it? Here we go. I do have to include this notch for the phone, but as you can see, the view you saw was the right view. If I go to my right view, it looks pretty fine, right? Except I'm on an angle here because that's the angle of the R, which is a little bit of a problem for us. So we certainly could, work around it. Or, even easier, if I just go on the left side and then just take this sketch and just flip it or mirror it, it's the same exact thing, right? So if I go sketch, I'm going to draw it on the left side now. So again, I'm just going to make kind of sort of what the shape should look like. It's not going to be perfect, which is totally fine because we're going to put dimensions in. So not a big deal. Actually, I'll get rid of that last one. And I'm just going to make it straight across just to make our life a little easier. Perfect. So now I can do my dimensions. So from the bottom to the bottom, it's going to be 0.25. It's going to be from the top of it. So let's go from here. So this is where the problem arises. We'll make this lower. Just so it goes to the top. It'll just make our life a little easier. Alright, if I dimension it, here to here, that's going to be 0.5. The bottom of this, from here to here, is also going to be 0.5. And then I have this guy here to the bottom. That angle is going to be 110. Now I'm just checking over my dimensions. 0.5 wide, 1/4 up, and then this is 1/2 inch back. That's perfect. So I'm going to name this phone notch. I'm going to extrude this part, and I don't want to add on to it, right? I want to remove it, so I'm going to first rename it so I don't forget. Remove. But as you can see, it doesn't go all the way through. If I go from blind to through all, now it will go all the way through. Confirm it. Boom. Now I have a notch for my phone to sit in. And you can't see it from the front. It's very aesthetically pleasing. Now, if for whatever reason you're looking and your letter maybe dips down just a little bit, what we can do is if we make a sketch on the front, we can certainly just make a rectangle that goes all the way down on the plane, and you could call it like, flat bottom. And then if a part was dipping down, all we would have to do is extrude. We could select the part and then remove, change it from blind to through all, and it will get rid of that part that's dipping down, and it will make it nice and flat, which is what we want. But for our purposes, I want to get rid of that. I'm going to get rid of that. Once I am done, I always rename my part. I'm going to call initial block. I'm going to, of course, recolor it, change my part studio, right click on initial part, create drawing. Now, stay in the habit of going 4 views, even though we're not going to need all 4. It's just a good habit to stay in. Once I'm here, I only really care about this right view, just so I can make sure you did it correct. Change your units to inches fractional. Close that. Start dimensioning. So from the bottom to the top, should be, 2 inches now, because we had to keep the letter inside the 2-inch box. If it's slightly under, like a crazy fraction like this, that's totally fine. Not a big deal, right? And then same thing, I go corner to corner. That should be 2. That's perfect. Width of that. We'll go here, boom. That should be a half. Here to here. Again, it could be a little wonky, especially since, like, here I'm going from there, so I could certainly just double check if you have a weird part, right? So I'll go from the top. You might have to zoom in a tad just to make sure. There you go. That's good to go. If you ever have dimensions like this, if you hover over it, see I have an arrow there, I click on it, it puts the arrows on the outside so you can see the dimension. Game changer. Top to the bottom here. That's a quarter. Again, I can certainly flip it. And actually it's telling me that's fine. You can move your numbers up a little bit so it's a little easier to see. Dimension this. And again, you may have to move some stuff around. Not a big deal. You don't want to put any dimensions touching each other. And then last but not least, you're going to dimension this to this in a 110 angle. And you could certainly play with that to try and make it look nice for you. So when you're done, your right side view should look very darn similar to what I have right here. All right, hope that helps. See you later.